Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today, I'm coming to you all with a review for The Outfit, directed by Graham Moore in his directorial debut, and starring Mark Rylance, Zoey Deutch, Johnny Flynn, and Dylan O'Brien. Story-wise, the film is centered around Leonard, an English cutter who works in a Chicago tailor shop with a very specific clientele. As a result, he soon finds himself embroiled in a deadly conflict that threatens to destroy his business and his life, unless he can manage to survive it. So, I'm going to start with the pros. Wow. Wow. That's all I can say. So, as I mentioned, this film is directed by Graham Moore. He is a screenwriter and author who is most known for his screenplay for the film The Imitation Game, which won the 2014 Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. And on a smaller note, he also happens to be from Chicago, Illinois. Shout out to the hometown. Once again, this is his directorial debut, and he also co-wrote the film with Johnathan McClain. And ironically, this is Johnathan McClain's feature film writing debut. His only other writing credit is for the Disney series Liv and Maddie. I really don't know what to say except that Graham Moore and Johnathan McClain, I am ready to see a whole lot more from both of them in the future. I thought this was an excellently directed, excellently written, and just an excellently made film, period. I have said plenty of times that I love a good slow burn when it is done well, and I think this is one of the best examples of that. I love when we get really great story progression, character development, reveals, twists, turns, all of it. And with this particular film and story, all of that is taking place in one location. Speaking of which, I am really becoming a fan of single location films. I find them to be so interesting, and there was a time where I probably wouldn't have thought to watch a film like that. And I know some of them can feel very static and very awkward, but I am seeing that with films like The Hateful Eight, and with Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, and this film, and so many others. There is a lot that you can do with that medium. It makes for a very unique film experience. I feel that it really gives us the opportunity to just settle in with these characters, settle in with the dialogue, really watch everything play out and kind of bounce off of each other in this one environment, as opposed to jumping from one place to the next. And because I am such a huge dialogue person, I love when the dialogue just leaps off of the screen and we have the opportunity to just sit in that and we feel the impact of every single word. I think that is something else that this film does so well, especially thanks to Johnathan McClain's screenplay. And a lot of that helped establish the tension in this film. When I tell you the tension was off the charts, I was just sitting there like my chest was getting tight. I was like, look, like I can't take much more of this. I love when the right amount of tension is established in a story and it just keeps building and building and building and building. And that tension makes it all the more remarkable that the film manages to establish some very subtle humor here. It's not silly, it's not over the top, it's not out of place, but it's very finely woven throughout the film and throughout the story, and it was really enjoyable and necessary because, like I said, we needed a break from some of the stuff that we see in this film. For all my Shrek fans out there, you know that very classic line about onions and layers? Well, this film is a great parallel to that. You think you're getting one thing, and then there's this piece, and then there's this piece, and we're going deeper, and we're going deeper, and then there's this, and then there's this other thing, and it's like, wow, wait a minute. How did we get here? I am also a huge fan of Alexandre Desplat. He is a French composer and conductor. I was actually introduced to his work back in 2003 with the film Girl with the Pearl Earring. I love that score and I love the film as well. And I must say that he is such a masterful composer. But he has composed numerous scores following that film. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. There's The Queen, The Golden Compass, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, Little Women, The King's Speech. I mean, the list really does go on and on and on. And on top of that, he's won 2 Academy Awards for his work in film scores with The Grand Budapest Hotel and The Shape of Water. And don't even get me started on the nominations, because that's a whole nother piece there. But I must say that all in all, this was another really solid addition to his roster. It's very smooth, it's very mellow, and it enhances the film perfectly. And I have got to talk about this cast and these performances because, man, this cast, this cast was no joke. We have Mark Rylance as our lead. His performance was excellent here, but honestly, that's not a surprise. And I personally have been a fan of Mark Rylance since The Other Boleyn Girl, where he portrayed Thomas Boleyn. Ironically enough, that is also the same film that introduced me to Eddie Redmayne and Benedict Cumberbatch. It's always cool to see certain actors before they were known, and it's really something to see that their careers have really blown up, each of them, in a very significant and unprecedented way. And speaking of introductions to actors, this is my introduction to Zoey Deutch. She's previously starred in films like Before I Fall, Zombieland Double Tap, and the Netflix series The Politician. I really enjoyed her here. I thought she was such a dynamic and very layered character. I loved how tough and no nonsense she was. But then we also see these layers to her. We see this emotional vulnerability and that there's more to her than just the exterior. And I really enjoyed her performance. I loved her chemistry with Mark Rylance. And I just enjoyed seeing the shades of gray to the character, especially considering how she gets thrust into the middle of all this mayhem going on. I also have to shout out Johnny Flynn and Dylan O'Brien. My introduction to Johnny Flynn was as William Dobbin in the 2018 miniseries adaptation of Vanity Fair, and as Mr. Knightley in Emma. And he did a really solid job in both of those films, but considering those characters and then looking at the character in this film, in this performance, it is like night and day. Like, I thought he was so intimidating and very off-putting and kind of frightening. Like, it was quite the departure from those last 2 roles. But hey, I am here for the range. And the same with Dylan O'Brien, Teen Wolf, the Maze Runner trilogy, Love and Monsters. I also enjoyed his performance in this film, and I'm really enjoying seeing where he's headed career-wise. And lastly, I also have to mention Nikki Amuka-Bird and Simon Russell Beale. They both rounded out this cast with really solid performances as well, especially Nikki Amuka-Bird. I actually recognized her from the M. Night Shyamalan film Old, which just came out last year. And as I have said plenty of times, that cast was so talented, but that film, the direction, it didn't do anyone any favors. It just didn't. But in a way, I'm almost appreciative for that because her role in this film and her performance, it really it caught me off guard. I was not expecting that. And when she comes in, whoo, man, she owns her screen time. I was here for her every moment she was on the screen. So I'm going to jump over to the cons. Were there cons? No, but honestly, the only couple of cons I had, I would say the first would be the pacing somewhat. I was fine with progression of this film, and I think it's very intentional about the pace and slowly unfolding this story and these deeper aspects of it, the subtext and all of that. But there were a couple of moments where I could feel a little bit of a lull. But I also recognize that part of that was just my desire to really see everything play out. So I do think the pacing is just a little sticky here and there, but it's also really necessary in the end. So not a full con, but something I still recognized. And then given the nature of the twists and the turns, there was one at the very, very end that I was a little iffy on. I understood why it was necessary because it's the catalyst for something else. And I appreciated how that piece played out. But how it begins is very oh, wait, there's more. Like I said, I'm fine with that because of how things did play out, and I did think that in the end it was effective. But as far as the unfolding of that and the initial beginning of that moment, I think that there could have been a somewhat less contrived way to do that. So I'm going to give the outfit an A minus. I have to be honest, this is the type of film that makes me appreciate the experience of film. And I'm not trying to oversell it, but there's just something to be said about films like this that are very quiet and very understated, but have such a big impact, especially as far as how you feel walking away from them. Don't get me wrong, I love a good big budget blockbuster and explosions and fun and, spectacle and all of that. But I think films like this really hit me in a certain place. And it's all the more significant because this film was distributed by Focus Features. And I feel like so many of Focus Features films have been like this, and I've enjoyed them. And they have really helped develop my appreciation for film in this very quiet way, in this very understated way, and just appreciating a form of storytelling and cultivating these narratives and these characters and these lush films that really resonate with me and with other people as well. I really hope that this film does not fall under the radar. Unfortunately, there's a lot of potential for it to, but I am here to say that this is a film absolutely worth watching. I think it deserves a wider audience. I think it deserves its acclaim. And even as far as the theater experience, I would say go and see it there as well. Like, I had such a great time watching this film, and it gave me everything I needed and much more. And although it wouldn't be diluted if you watched it on streaming or video on demand or whatever, I think that it definitely is impactful enough to see it in the theater, if you're willing. And I will close out by saying that there is still very much an audience for this type of film. And I hope and trust and believe that they will continue to be made. And I hope that somewhere, somehow, we have these studios that are able to recognize that there's an audience for this. There is an audience who absolutely enjoys them and appreciates them. And I know that because I'm one of them. The Outfit is now playing in theaters. You guys feel free to check it out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So, once again, this is D Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you with the movie.